Hi, everybody. Welcome back to New York City. My name is Dave Vellante. You're watching theCUBE's coverage of Cloudera EVOLVE 2025. Cloudera's big customer event in New York. They go around the world with this event. And today, they had the A-team here for sure. Charles, the CEO, the CRO, the Chief Strategy Officer, customers. Really a great event here at the Glass House. Thrilled to have David Dichmann here. He's the Vice President of Product Marketing at Cloudera. We're going to talk about the market. We're going to talk about the need for private AI, some partnerships. David, thanks for coming on.
Oh, happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
So specifically, Head of Product Marketing, talk about your role a little bit. And, we've had a little bit of time to talk to customers. What are you hearing at Evolve today?
So it's a favorite part of my job is being here, listening to how our customers are being successful with using Cloudera technology and amplifying those stories, sharing them with others to see how they can also replicate similar success. And what we've been finding is a lot of organizations have been making investments around AI, around generative AI. They're seeing some good positive returns, but they're running into some of the common challenges that we're seeing market-wide that we're here to help our customers address.
Yeah, so I was mentioning you off camera. This week at the New York Stock Exchange, we have our media week on AI factories and the data center, the future. And the big theme is that we observed that, yeah, sure, there's a lot of experimentation going on in the cloud. The MIT study says 95% of those experiments fail. It's okay, experiments are supposed to fail.
That's right.
The cloud's great for that. But we see organizations, George Gilbert and I wrote a piece about 6-9 months ago, why Jamie Dimon is Sam Altman's biggest competitor. And the premise was that Jamie Dimon is a metaphor for enterprises, has all this proprietary data that they don't want to put into the cloud, and they want to apply for competitive advantage. So they're bringing AI and that cloud experience to the data.
Yeah.
And they're building on-prem stacks. Now, the challenge is on-prem stacks, they have to be built. You guys actually have a pretty robust on-prem stack. So my question for you is, what are you seeing in the trends? You guys use the term private AI. What does that mean to you? And what are you seeing with customers? And then we'll get into some of the products.
Sure, absolutely. So I think the first thing is, as you've been saying, as we set the stage here, we see the innovation in AI happening in public cloud. The speed of innovation, the flexibility, the accessibility to resources. We want to bring those values to the data center. And we don't want to see people having to build and cobble together these bespoke stacks everywhere. We want to bring that flexibility and ease of use of the cloud into the data center. So we see it as cloud anywhere. So the first thing that we're doing is, and if we ask ourselves why are we doing this, is we're trying to make that data that you don't want to put into the public spaces available to the latest innovation in AI. So this is the cloud anywhere. The reason why we want to do this is, if we look at the way AI has been successful today, it's been around a lot of these sort of common use cases on common accessible data, chatbots on our public websites and safe data, but to get real business value from AI. And this is what our customers really want to extract, that differentiated business value. How can I make my business have that competitive edge? How can I be better and get more share, increase my top line? How can I be more efficient, save more operational costs, go after that bottom line, or even just protect myself against cyber attack or fraud? These use cases require an intimacy with who I am as a business, my customers, not customers in general, my business processes, my differentiated value. How do I teach my AI these things without whispering my trade secrets to the cloud? And that's exactly where the need for private AI comes in. I want to keep, now it's not just the data. If we think about how we use AI, the data is a big piece of the puzzle, sure. I want to make sure that if I train a model, I train it in a way that training doesn't get whispered to the cloud. But then as I use AI, my business processes or my folks who are asking AI questions, looking for that inferencing, sending the prompts, those prompts are our intellectual property. The answers we get back from AI, that's also our intellectual property. All of that needs to stay secure and within my complete control in order for me to protect my intellectual property as I use AI. And that's the promise of private AI. That's what it will deliver.
We are so aligned in our thinking. I mean, yes, the data is critical. We always hear data has gravity, process has gravity as well.
Absolutely.
And the point you're making about the intimacy and understanding the business, we frequently talk about what people want is a digital representation of their business. And that's what the agents are going to be operating on, but they have to understand not strings that databases understand, but things, people, places, things, and processes. And the queries, that's interesting. The prompts, the system has to interpret business context from those and from the metrics and dimensions from the BI system. So this is a very complicated, set of dimensions, and you've got to have a really robust stack. It's got to have, not only the data, it's got to have the governance, got to have the lineage, a lot of the pieces that you guys talk about. So I like your private AI vision. It's not just about, a cloud experience on-prem. No. It's much, much more than that.
Absolutely.
Okay, you guys have a number of partnerships. You touted a lot with NVIDIA and Dell in particular. You've got kind of an interesting, I call it AI in a box, I guess.
Yes.
So this is, to me, critical because your point about cloud is right on. There's a lot of optionality in the cloud. They have massive ecosystems. But what enterprises need, they need solutions. Mm-hmm. So what are you doing with Dell? I've got a press release here that we can touch on, but it looks like you guys got a solution that's right out of the box.
Absolutely. So we've been continuing with this relationship with Dell, and the latest announcement we have is around ObjectScale. Mm-hmm. So what this one specifically is doing is bringing that object storage in an easier and more cost-effective way to manage into the data center. This is one of the many pieces of the puzzle in bringing cloud to the data center. So what this does is it lets us take all of our semi-structured, unstructured, and structured data and put it into an environment that's similar to what we find in the object stores in cloud in things like S3 and Microsoft's ADLS and more. Mm-hmm. And that is the native storage of the cloud today. That gives us that flexibility, that gives us that opportunity to mix and match all of our different data from anywhere and everywhere in our business and bring it together so that we can use it to business value. That's the real reason why we're counting anything in our business and tracking all of this data is we want it to teach us and tell us things about how to run our business better and how to keep ourselves safe. So the object store gives us that opportunity to do that in the data center the same way we have in cloud, but it also allows us to bring our compute closer to that storage, which allows us to reduce latency and get value faster.
So a couple of details here that I want to dig into.
Sure.
It's ObjectScale's S3 compatible object store for AI workloads. So the three components here: a Cloudera AI Workbench, a Cloudera Inference Service, and Cloudera Agent Studio. I wonder if we can unpack those. Talk about the AI Workbench, a secure environment for building, training, and refining AI models. So we got the training piece, then you go to inference, and then now you got the agentic on top. This is the richness of your stack that we were talking about before, but from a product standpoint, I'd like you to talk about that and add some color.
Absolutely. So especially when we think about private AI, but any AI, mm-hmm. we need to be able to build that AI effectively and efficiently, and we need to be able to run that AI safely and securely. So to build AI, the AI Workbench, together with the studios, we'll talk about the AI Workbench first. This gives us a high-code, familiar environment for those who are deeply skilled in AI to build the most optimal environments for us, to train the models best, to build the agents and assistants and applications around that AI the best, and really use that deep, intimate knowledge of the code and the applications and how it all fits together to get those really optimized AI solutions. And that's a great way to have complete control over your AI.
Mm-hmm. I want to ask you about the survey findings.
Yes.
The new State of Enterprise AI survey shows 96% of enterprises have integrated AI at least somewhat into their core business processes. So, two-part question. One is, I'd like to make sure we're not just paving the cow path and applying technology to processes that maybe are outdated. But so anyway, what does this stat tell us about, the AI shift from kind of nice, interesting machine learning toy to, a business mandate? And how do we, and I think this is why, people say, 2025 is the year of agentic. We're the decade of agentic. It's going to take some time so that we're not just paving the cow path. But your thoughts on this data?
So what this tells us is that the market is no longer wondering if AI has business value. AI has already proven to the vast majority of the market mm-hmm. that there is business value in adopting AI. We see this even consensus among industry analysts that organizations who adopt AI in their business practices in any form are likely to far exceed the performance of those who do not. So is AI important? The answer is absolutely, without question, a yes. And that survey finding tells us that. But now as we move towards where AI provides its best value to business, this is where, as we were talking earlier, we move from those common use cases on common data like a chatbot on our website, to those truly bespoke optimizers that we can put into our business that can reason and react and even directly interact with our business through the use of tools and infrastructure and optimize our business in a much more performant way. So this is why people are racing toward agents, because that is, if AI works, and agents are the best way to use AI to make my business my way, more performant, more competitive, more versatile, I need to go agent. And so everyone's investing in agents and agentic AI because that's really where we know that value is going to come from. But there's a lot of challenges and risks associated with doing so.
And David, to your point, there are a lot of successes that you can note. We had JPMC on theCUBE doing some amazing work.
Absolutely.
They were at an event as well last night, and I was talking to one of their heads that was sharing some stuff with us. AbbVie today on the stage, on and on and on. But these are big companies with a lot of resources. And so this is my point, is this is a complicated situation for a lot of customers. They got to figure out, okay, what are those use cases? And then like everybody, they get thousands of potential use cases. They have to prioritize them. And then, it's not just a technology problem.
No.
It's like the gentleman from AbbVie said today, the number one mistake that people make is they approach this as a technology opportunity and they get the stuff working, and then it's like, okay, where's the business value?
Right.
So it is a complicated situation for a lot of folks. That's why they need solutions. They're worried about security. They're worried about governance. That's assuming they can get through the prioritization, and they've got the talent and the skills, and this is where solutions come in. But then governance and lineage and security. So where do you see customers getting stuck?
So they're getting stuck in a couple of places. The first is people and skills. And that's where things like our agent studio and the AI studios that we deliver with Cloudera come into play. If I want to build AI with low to no code, here I have accelerators, I have patterns and templates that can be used, and I can drag and drop pieces together. And one, it lets me fail early, fail often, experiment and find where the business value is. But then also, once I know where the business value is, deliver something that may not be the most optimal, but is something that's better today than I had yesterday that gives immediate business value without needing high skills and high code. The fact that I also have the Workbench to allow us to optimize that with high code, I'm able to accelerate the development of AI applications, assistants, and agents without losing that full control to go in and fine-tune as needed and refine as needed. You couple that with private AI, and then we solve for that security, governance, provenance, sovereignty issues that plague the data that really is the richest data for us to be intimate with the business and gives us the best business value where AI can be the most effective.
So I was kind of laying out a couple of examples, large companies. When you think about the solutions that you're doing, AI in a box and things like that, are there patterns that you expect or are you seeing in terms of whether it's industry or size of company that stand out to you?
So right now today, the ones that are hitting the wall the most around being able to use these data sets for the best value with AI are organizations that are more heavily regulated. So those regulations put a wet blanket on the free use of this data for free experimentation in public-facing capacities. But also organizations such as in manufacturing, where a lot of the data is going to be in the factory floor, that is coming from the edge, that is coming from near and far edge, telco very similar, where I need to be able to have the AI for its best efficiency operate at the point of action and not wait for that data to eventually make it to some sort of central store for comparison, reasoning, and action. And also in public sector where sovereignty becomes a really big element. Those are the places where we're seeing the most immediate demand for exploring private AI. But even if we move down market and go to mid-size or smaller enterprises, what you are as a business, who you are as a business, your intellectual property, your patents, your secret sauce, that is always going to be needed to be kept private. And being able to deliver a complex solution with the ease of public cloud is really the mission. And that's where things like the AI in a box come into play. If I can deliver a solution to you that you didn't have to take the ingredients and figure out the recipe yourself, but can just deploy into your environment where you know you have that safety, where you know you have that security, and be able to take advantage of AI with low and no code tooling, you can now compete with much larger organizations, even with the resources that you only have to bear yourself.
And you can set up an infrastructure that is substantially similar to the cloud experience, and you can begin doing your own experiments and being a service organization to your internal customers. Much different than 2010.
Yeah,
when the whole world was caught off guard with over provisioning and the IT infrastructure that basically much of it vaporized.
Absolutely.
I'm glad you mentioned the edge, because Abbas gave a phenomenal presentation today, really impressive with a lot of data. One of the things that stood out, I think it was McKinsey data, he said that 30% of the inference will be done on-prem and private AI. I thought that McKinsey, I think it was McKinsey, not to pick on him, but I think that number was low. And B, I think the edge is going to really tip the balance. I think actually the majority of AI is going to be AI inferencing at the edge. And we haven't even started to imagine that. I mean, it's certainly there in pockets, it's there in our phones, but how do you think about that opportunity? What are you seeing from customers?
Well, I think it's a massive opportunity. If we start with just the basic notion of time value of data, the closer to data immediacy you can achieve, the higher that business value is going to be. And then to extend that further out, the farther out in the future you can predict where data will go next by seeing the patterns and trends from the past against what's happening now against the future, the even more valuable that is. But if we just look at being able to reduce time to detect and time to react, great example is moving from something like cyber attack prevention versus detection. Today we do a lot of detection. We have organizations that are very proud of being able to detect a cyber attack within 7 seconds. That seems fast, but a cyber attacker in your network for 7 seconds is an eternity. That is painful. That is billions of dollars of potential damage. But if I can shorten the time to detect to milliseconds, I no longer have to halt my business or send risky transactions into my network because I don't want to slow down business. I can detect that is potential cyber attack and immediately stop it before it even enters the system without slowing the need for business to run. And so this changes the game. This allows us to do things in a far more proactive way versus reactive way. And we can apply this to anything. We can apply this to keeping cell towers up and running. We can apply this to far edge with remote devices that need to be able to reason independently until network connection is established and restored, and being able to not just know that went from green light to red light, but know what it means, what I should do about it, and then even have the automation act upon it, all in less than a second. We will change the way that we can run and operate.
I love how you laid that out, because we've been pretty good at what happened, and even decent at why it happened, but not what should we do next. And that's what you're talking about, assuming no connectivity.
Right.
Love it. Last question. So Brian from AbbVie, he had a great term, pilotitis. And so when you think about the next 12 to 18 months, customers, they gotta do more than just do pilots, because that's just barely keeping up. What do they have to do to avoid pilotitis and to actually gain competitive advantage over the next year and a half?
Well, fundamentally, this is about alignment with business goals. It's very common for us on the technology side to do, as you were saying earlier, I invented a bunch of things. Business, find what you think of value from it. Instead, we should be flipping the script a little bit. What does the business need to achieve in this same time frame? What does good look like for the business a year from now, 18 months from now? Is it growth in share? Is it improved efficiency? Is it saving more lives? What do we want to do as a business? And then think, what AI use cases best fit those? And from those AI use cases, which ones can we deliver now? And get business value into the equation early. There could be 100 use cases, but partnering with the business and the business stakeholders, we can narrow that down to a dozen or a half a dozen big impact ones we can deliver today, perhaps even in a suboptimal way that will immediately start paying back that positive return on investment we're looking for, that high value business over the total cost of ownership. We get that return on investment, that positive return on investment we're looking for, which has been a bit elusive in AI today. We've talked to customers who said, I'll spend $2 billion on AI for $1 billion in business value because I need to get ahead of competition. But we still have this desire to say, no, I want to flip that. And I want to make $2 billion with $1 billion investment. So cherry picking the right use cases that grow the business, that protect the business, that optimize the business in the way the business wants to be, is the ideal way to get those things into production get that actual measurable result, and use that as the basis for the next and the next and the next.
Well, Dave, I have to say we're very much aligned in our vision. Cloudera has done the engineering work and the product work to really position itself well for this this AI era. Really appreciate your time and your perspectives. Thanks for coming on theCUBE.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
All right, you bet. All right, and thank you for watching. This is Dave Vellante at Cloudera Evolve 2025. You're watching theCUBE's continuous coverage here from New York City. We'll be right back live right after this short break.